Welcome to 52 Needs, and this week we're looking at equality. And I'm really happy to have with me my dear friend Bangu Masisi, who's an amazing woman, and I can't wait to talk to her about this really important topic. So here's a little bit about Bangu. She has a background in media and communications, and she started her career in South African radio, and she ended up managing really high-profile national and international projects, including Nelson Mandela's first business industry meeting as president in 1994. She's had a long and distinguished career directing and launching important African cultural and political projects, and she served as PR director and organizing committee member for the 2003 Cricket World Cup before she became the first general manager of the South African Tourism Australasia, where I had the pleasure of meeting her. Then she became the director for South African tourism in Northern Europe. And then that was followed by serving president of South African tourism for North America, including Canada. Bangu has recently returned to South Africa and is currently crafting business success as executive director for Sapphire Corporate Solutions. And as you may have guessed, she's also a wonderful friend. Welcome, Bangu. I'm so happy to see you.
It's so happy to talk to you, and it's so happy to see you again, and always nice chatting to you, Angela.
So, equality at work. I mean, you've had lots and lots of experience working on so many different continents. What is your experience? Do we have equality at work?
Much as I believe that equality is supposed to be equal, if I can put it that way, you always find nuances that women are always discriminated in anything. But I have deliberately and decided a long time ago that when I want to do something, I'm going to do it my way. And I always believe that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to make noise, because that's another thing. You do it deliberately, quietly, and you just focus. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what actually makes us stay off the grid is because you become emotional. Yeah. And I have learned to actually control my emotion, not necessarily that I suppress myself, but I realized that throughout the time, the only way that made me go through what I was doing throughout these years in my career is when I get to do something, or I get an opportunity to do something, I become deliberate and I focus. Mm-hmm. And I get, pettiness for me doesn't work. And I always try to actually get away, from pettiness. Okay. The other thing that I found as well at work is subtleness of men trying to suppress you as a woman. And I believe I'm a very good, I read people very well. Okay. And I don't show it without, so that's how I actually get my way. You need to work, you need to make it work for if you are in an industry or you are doing a project, it doesn't matter what you do. You need to work with the people who are there. And in most cases, throughout my career, it has been a men's world. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you'd had to know how to rope them in to work with you you don't have to make noise to do that. You just do it. And you actually, when you're sitting down and talking to them, just make them see your point. And that's how I think I've come to actually go through my career without too many stops. There have been stops, in the way, especially, men, because they actually never stop. But I believe that is the way you handle them, and knowing them better makes you actually the winner at the end of the day.
Okay. So what do you need to know about men specifically, since we're talking about that, in order to make it work? Because, I mean, if you've worked with the cricket and within sports, I'm sure you're used to working with lots of men, and probably, I mean, I'm guessing that may have been times where you were the only woman or one of the very few women.
Yes, especially, I mean, it's a very good example, cricket. I knew nothing about cricket except that you need to protect your wicket. And I didn't even know how to do that. And when cricket is like a religion, and it's actually throughout the world, it's male and pale. And it was a big upset for, number one, I don't know about how, it coming to Africa, if I can put it that way, because cricket is like, it's a first world thing. Even in South Africa, as Black people, we didn't know much about cricket. But because they needed people to organize the Cricket World Cup, which is my forte, as a, and we coming in, it was almost like, if I be blunt, it was me and the marketing, I was the PR director and then the marketing director. We happened to be two Black women. And the cricket people, saw it as if our director then of the Cricket World Cup, here he is, he's been in cricket for so long, he knows the rules, but he's just brought these two Black girls to come and run the cricket. And we were, in a way, creating the rule at that point or upsetting the rules of cricket.
Well, if you don't know anything about it, that's easy to do, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. But at the end of the day, you needed to make them understand that it's not cricket about South Africa. This is about the world. This is how the world is going to be looking at us. And you are actually welcoming your other cricket peers from all over the world. So you need to make room for them because all of them will be your guests. It was tough, but eventually they actually got to understand.
Okay. You mentioned something before where you said you learn to control your emotions. So, I work with men and women, obviously, as well. And my experience is often, and I know that there are men who will say that that's not true, but when a woman gets loud, she's often labeled the B word. But when a man gets loud, he is powerful and, authoritative and, has that chutzpah, that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that your experience?
Yes, it was my experience as well. But at the same time, I think my demeanor as well came handy for me because I could make my point without making noise. But at the same time, not necessarily that I was backing down. And sometimes, being taken over by emotions, especially when you are in the room with men, as you say, either the only woman or the minority, in the room, they will sit there and watch what is she going to say? What is she going to do? But then once at the end of the day, you make them understand the reason I'm saying this is because it's for the good of the bigger picture.
Okay. So it really doesn't have anything to do with gender. It's about being a rational human being who can make a good point and be convincing in your argument.
And convince you as well, you have to actually convince twice, to your point, because it's the gender I am, I always had to prove my point even twice. But because I was deliberate in what I was doing, I didn't mind doing that.
Okay. So gender still plays a role. You have to be twice as
it does.
Guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So what's your experience with regards to opportunity? Is that different for women and for men?
Very different.
I know, because I know you worked with a lot of women, didn't you? I know that when you moved from Sydney to Amsterdam to New York, you hired women.
Yes, most of my teams were actually women, because I believe that especially in the industry of tourism, when now I moved, away from tourism as well, it was a new world for me completely. South African tourism industry and Australian, where I studied Australian tourism industry, they didn't know me. I was an outsider. And even South African tourism industry were hesitant to say, who is she? And because of the new government in South Africa, it was almost like I was probably, I went to Australia because I was so-and-so's daughter or so-and-so's, I'm connected and this and whatever it is. But unfortunately for them, I just got the job. I was not connected to anybody. And I had to start from even the industry in Australia. They were probably, when I think about it, they were asking their peers in South Africa to say, do you know who she is? And they said, no, we don't know who she is. We don't know how she got there. And it took a woman for me to have dinner with a woman in Sydney for her to go back to her boss to say, you got to listen to this woman. And that's how the Australian tourism started engaging with me. And only then they started Googling me. And I don't understand why they didn't do that before, especially that they were actually questioning themselves. And immediately the Cricket World Cup came up when Australia won that 2003 Cricket World Cup.
Okay.
And when they saw that, I interacted with Mandela not once or too many times, and that's when people started to opening up to me, and the rest is history.
You hit the right religious note there then.
Yes.
Okay, so you said that a woman helped you. So it took a woman to connect with you. Do women generally, is your experience that women help each other in business?
We could do better. Let me put it that way. I don't want to discount it. We could do better. We could do better. But when there's a woman has, a woman's heart is in the right place and they see another woman, they actually, they go all the way to, to do it. But in most cases, we are our own enemies as women, to be honest with you. Because when I'm on the top, I don't want any other woman to be on the top, because now, probably in the boardroom, men are starting to listen to me because they have no choice. I'm there, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want any other woman to come in. But then that's where we actually lose it as well. And I want to make this a very good point, because sometimes we forget ourselves as, as women. Men could be dominant in the world, and the reason they're still dominant today is because they support each other.
Yeah.
But for us, to an extent, if I be critical for us, to some extent, we actually don't. And I think we need to be doing that more and more and more. So, for us to be, because we're strong in what we do. I don't care what we do. Yeah.
I mean, we do it in our personal lives. I mean, I've got my sisterhood of girlfriends all around the world, right? And and in work, it doesn't seem to be the same way. As you said, I mean, we've got the good old boys networks, but women, not so much.
And that's why, for me, in a way, it was deliberate that I've always hired women, and not even thinking about, are they going to be supporting me or not? But I could see the need for us to continue, in that part.
Yeah. So I think that's a really important thing, because I read that in the Global Gender Gap Report that came out last year, they reveal that gender parity will not be achieved for 99.5 years. And I think that we need to I think when women start working together, it's probably going to happen much sooner. And see, I don't like overgeneralizing, because I think there are a lot of men out there who really want equality for women as well.
No, they do, yes, yeah.
But sometimes I think that women are our own worst enemy. I mean, we are not really helping each other, and we're doing all sorts of things that prolong that process. And so.
And I totally agree with you, because, when I look back at where I started as a young girl, wanting to be going to university, wanted to be a chartered accountant. And what changed my career completely was when I worked at the radio station, and I realized that there's another world out there. And I've always liked the world. And, what best way to discover the world through music, Yeah. And that's when, I just thought, oh, okay, the world is not like one way. You need to go to, education is, don't get me wrong, education is it's the key and the base of whatever, but, sometimes you never know until you experience something. And ever since I joined, my first career in communications and PR, I've just been doing things that I never thought I would do. I don't know cricket, I was in cricket. I didn't know anything about tourism, I was in tourism. And that, for me, it means if you are determined and deliberate in what you want to do, and once you are given an opportunity, you take it and embrace it. And along the way, embrace other women.
Yeah, absolutely.
As much as you can.
I think that's really important. It's about supporting and saying, instead of going, I mean, I hear that because I used to hear that. I think I'm past the point now, because I used to hear, marriage, no children, and all of these judgments. I mean, isn't it time that you, or shouldn't you, all these shoulds of what I should have been like and what I shouldn't be like. I mean, like, again, I mean, it's like simple things like I don't wear high heels, and the judgment sometimes that comes from, and I'm saying this deliberately, this looking up and down at another woman and judging her on what she's wearing, for example. And that's not men, that's women. I think that is something that we could do much better with.
And I agree with you. And to your point, that's supposed to be the things that determine who we are.
Yeah.
And which I think in the scheme of things, it's got nothing to do with. And I like what you said earlier on, things about, as a woman being expected to get married, to have children, to do this. And I've always said, I'm not a conformist. I do what it comes in my heart, and I think this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't do things because people expect me to do that. And that's the one thing in the beginning I disagreed with my dad, but he got to understand that I'm actually a replica of who he is. The difference was I was a girl.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked about that before, that we had this very long lunch where we said we grew up in totally different cultures on 2 different continents, but we could have swapped our families and it would have been exactly the same experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think what we've both just identified is that we can identify biases, and we can ignore them. But what we need to do is we need to uncover more of these unconscious biases that we have, that really get in the way of women communicating with women and supporting women, and men supporting women, and women supporting men as well, because sometimes there's inequality as well, I think. And that's a totally different topic, but in the way we raise children and boys and girls, and so yeah. I think we've got a lot of work to do, but looking back, I mean, we've come a long way in the last 40 years at least.
And we still have a long way to go, hey? And, you were saying, coming back home, having this opportunity of being an executive director. I was contacted I've been in contact with a friend of mine from the university. And he's the one who actually said, I think you must come and do this with me. So, yeah.
And now you're creating success there, business success there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're trying to find corporate solutions, because now we have to look at solutions differently now because of what has happened with the COVID and this. We have to totally unthink.
Yeah.
And talking about equality as well, if you think about it, we were all created equal. And I think COVID has, if anything, has taught us that today, for the first time in a long time, we are all over the world talking about one thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely
right. It's a global thing, and it's one thing, and it has leveled the playing field, and everybody's equal, because how we treat it, how we get the vaccines and whatever is another matter, but the topic is the same all over the world.
Yeah.
And that, for me, is a game changer.
Yep.
I think
there would.
No, I was just saying, even in our lives going forward, it has stopped our life in a way, but I think it has actually just reminded us to stop to think and actually do things that are important, because nothing is urgent in this world.
Yeah. So we've got, as you said, we've got a long way to go, but I think we're accelerating as well because of all of these external conditions that are changing and the way we're communicating. So I'm really excited about it's a challenging time, but I'm also really excited because people are working together in a totally different way. I mean, like Zoom has become normal. You don't have to go to boardrooms anymore. Nobody sits at the table. There are no big, it's become very inclusive.
I agree. And it's not urgent anymore to get into the car and go drive, and you have to be late for this meeting and all of that and whatever. And it was necessary then, but I think the world needed to stop to rethink how we do things all over the world. It doesn't matter personally and business and otherwise.
Well, that's a wonderful place to finish up. Thank you so much, Bangu. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to talking with you very soon.
No, thank you very much. And thanks for thinking of me with your 52 topics of the world, of the year. I really appreciate it. Always nice talking to you, Angela.
Thank you. And I'll see everybody next week.